AM 1430 KRGI 105.5 FM. Good morning. I'm Brian Gallagher. This is Community Connection. It's brought to you by Cornhusker Toyota Honda, Nebraska's only combined Toyota Honda dealership. Thursdays, we turn our focus to education. Today, on behalf of Grand Island Public Schools, Tyler Madison has come by to tell us about an interesting project and effort that they have with the Hall County Historical Society. First, Tyler, welcome. Good to have you here.
I'm glad to be here.
Let's talk about this project because you have been able to reach out and attract some kids that maybe you're going, well, they might be interested, and suddenly you get a rush with some of these kids, and that's a good problem to have. But let's talk about the effort overall about this and also how it all ties into what are called the Walnut Middle School DC Diplomats.
Yeah, the DC Diplomats have been around for 25 years, I believe, and I've been doing it for the last 10 years, and I'm kind of excited about getting them excited about more than just Washington, D.C. So I reached out to the Historical Society after seeing that they did a cemetery tour, thinking this would be a great way for our kids to maybe learn some of our local history and practice touring a cemetery before we head to Arlington.
And that's good because if you haven't been to D.C. before, you've heard of Arlington, okay? And you may have some understanding of Arlington, but until you go there and experience Arlington, you realize just how much that means to our history nationwide.
It is my favorite part of the trip every year. Our kids get to lay a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, so we spend a lot of time preparing them. And like you said, nothing can prepare you for walking those streets and seeing that history and realizing how significant every one of those headstones is. But we do our little part here getting our kids ready because we have a lot of important local stories too.
All right, so you've been doing this 10 years. What are some of the things that you've learned that you didn't know before that you now share as knowledge for these prospects?
Probably everywhere we go, there's history. Every step you take, whether it's here or in D.C., that seems really exciting going across the country. But I know that our kids are actually way more interested than adults give them credit for. I know they're excited to learn. They're excited to be a part of all of this stuff. That's probably the thing I've picked up on the most.
Well, the family history of Grand Island, especially when you see the different groups that came to and through the area in one form. Some stayed, some kept moving on. Most of them were heading west. But for those who did go ahead and establish some roots in this area, they have built a very firm foundation and a proud foundation.
They have, and that was kind of the fun thing about taking our kids on the cemetery tour and seeing some of the names that they know from our community still today, and seeing, okay, these are the people who kind of started this, and that's why we have these names, all over town.
Tyler Madison is an educator for Grand Island Public Schools. Now, you're at Walnut, is that right?
I am at Walnut.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he grew up here. He's a Grand Island native. You've been working with Michelle Setlick from the Hall County Historical Society about this junior member program. And the ultimate goal is to try to get kids ready for the DC Diplomats program, but it's also to get them to appreciate all of the historical things that have happened here and nationwide and how a lot of these things do tie together. Now, you have some programs that go on with specifically some of the things that you do with the Diplomats. In fact, you just recently had a spring cleaning project over at the Burlington Station.
Just yesterday, yeah. We had a dozen kids out cleaning up around the station. They got to get a little bit of history of the station while they were there. And the fun thing is we only could take a dozen because only a dozen, there's enough work for about that. But I had most of our group wanted to come help. But yeah, it's, again, everything they do, get out in the community, makes me really proud of our kids. That sometimes, again, we don't notice how great 13 and 14-year-olds can be.
Well, sometimes they accept that challenge. They're ready to show that they are ready to go. They want that responsibility. One of the responsibilities they will have is to do some fundraising for their spring 2025 trip. So you'll have a pancake feed to help the cause.
Yeah, our 8th graders will be working the pancake feed. They're the ones that already went on the trip, kind of as a service project for the next group coming up. And the Historical Society, this is part of our partnership. They're putting on the fundraiser for us from 8 to noon on Sunday. And it's kind of, a fun way interact with the community, and we're helping our 8th graders do kind of some leadership, jumping in with a service project and kind of kicking off fundraising for our 7th graders.
And then coming up in May, you're also going to have a downtown tour that will technically be your wrap-up effort.
Wrap-up and kickoff. I think we're going to be inviting the 7th graders, our next year's group, into that as well. I don't know what that one's going to be like. I'm kind of excited myself to go get some of that history, but I'm sure our 8th graders will sign up and be excited about getting to know, again, some more of our history that they'll see every day when they're downtown.
Oh, this sounds fascinating. It's just so much fun. And having been here long enough to see some of the changes, you realize, and when you've had a chance to look back at Grand Island history and how things have changed dramatically in the last 100 years, think about the next 100, what it could be like. So this is a good reason to maybe lend a hand if you possibly can. Again, the Pancake Feed is coming up Sunday, 8
to noon at the Burlington Station.
Okay. But otherwise, you can contact Michelle Setlick at Hall County Historical Society. Otherwise, Tyler, if folks do have any more questions, is there another place they can look for information?
They can email me, tmadison@gips.org.
Okay.
Or we have a Walnut DC Facebook page that I try to update kind of the things we're involved in.
There's always a way to lend a hand if you're able, so find it maybe just even a little bit, because it all adds up. So Tyler Madison, on behalf of the DC Diplomats effort, their cooperative program with the Hall County Historical Society, keep up the great work. Let's do an update and see how the kids have been doing, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Come back and see us. Good morning from AM 1430 KRGI, 105.5 FM.